Tennessee, and am shocked to learn from a group that is involved in the prevention of suicide that about 1,000 people in Tennessee kill themselves every year. We have in this state a population of 6.5 million. And among those people, the level of despair among 1,000 of them is so great that they violate the sixth commandment, which is thou shalt not kill, which means thou shalt do no murder, or thou shalt not effectively kill a human being apart from a lawful process. That commandment is not a blanket prohibition against the taking of human life, but it is a prohibition by the Creator upon mankind that no man can take the life of another man lawlessly. The lawless taking of life is forbidden, and yet there are provisions, of course, in the law of God for the lawful taking of a life, say that of a rapist or a murderer or an adulterer or someone caught in a homosexual act of buggery. That would be, for example, in God's economy, a capital offense. And in our country, we have capital offense for other cases which are not offenses at all. For example, betrayal of your country is not a capital offense in God's eyes, but it is in the eyes of the federal government, which views itself in a very high way, almost as God views himself. Well, this is David Tulis. Suicides in Tennessee, according to a summary of the report on TV9's website, is up 13% in 2015, the latest year for which figures are available. Now, you can commit suicide in despair. You can also, if you are a state, a nation, or people, you can commit suicide by policy. You can have a suicidal policy, say, of prosperity, which is entirely false, which gives you no futurity of life, no sustainable basis upon which to live further, and you're doing these things against your own law and against your own founding principles. A problem we have in very great measure in this country. We have people who are in charge of you might say of the economy. Though I think the economy always really kind of runs itself. Though people intervene in it by force. Those who intervene are credited with running the economy. We have Washington. We have the president who runs the economy, we're told. We have Congress that runs the economy. So we are told, and so we almost believe that it's possible for someone to control it, and it really can't be controlled. And yet there are interventions in the national economy, in private economy, against the family economy, and against individual prosperity, which many would say are suicidal, and I would agree that they are suicidal, and I do thank you for joining me here. We are 92.7 FM and 1240 AM, and I'm glad to be here. My name is David Tulis. I'm the host who covers local economy and the free market, and I'm glad to make the suggestion, a very mild-mannered suggestion, that you should love your neighbor and you should buy local. Buying local is the argument that I make, and it is one of great delight to offer to you here at Nooga Radio. Nooga Radio, our multimedia platform. I'm the editor of Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters, and the story of suicide is remarkable, partly because of the way this report is written. It runs on for maybe 25 pages or so, and from the hand of a group called the Tennessee Suicide Prevention Network, people who have their callings from the psychology and psychiatric fields, the fields of mental health, and their analysis, perhaps you could say, modestly goes only so far. They don't really try to explain why people kill themselves, but rather just that they do, and that it is a mental health issue. And here are the figures. That is kind of how they they go about it. And yet there's still, when I read their report, I couldn't help smiling just a little bit at the suggestion that, well, if we just have in our county or in our school system a suicide prevention task force, that we can save people from the despair that drives them to kill themselves. Interestingly, white people are extraordinarily more likely than black people or Hispanics to kill themselves. Blacks make up 16% of the population, and whites 79%, and yet 94% of suicides are among Caucasians. The paper figures an economic loss of $135 million per year of people who kill themselves. In other words, that's lost wages and income and creativity over the insurance guess of the length of each life. Emergency room costs run $39 million per year, roughly, and the total inpatient care in 2014 was given at $96.5 million. A hugely Caucasian and white phenomenon, that even though the black race, the black family is largely broken, it's been subsidized into fragmentation and subsidized into atomization by the federal welfare policy since President Johnson. It does not have the kind of despair in its heart as does the white race, generally more prosperous, its institutions figuring in its favor, and not bringing special attention to its members as a racial group. The report says that as of 2014, suicide is the third leading cause of death for young people ages 10 to 19. So there have been some people, some human beings made in God's image, some souls with bodies, who extinguish their own lives at that age, according to this accounting. In any given year, it says more teenagers and young adults die by suicide than from cancer and heart disease combined, and far more than from higher profile causes of death such as birth defects, HIV infection, and meningitis. In Tennessee, there were 49 deaths among people between the ages of 10 and 19. Again, a remarkable figure. There's a reference here where in geographical differences, and I was making note about Blount County. It said that in 2002, a group was formed there, the Blount County Mental Health and Suicide Prevention Alliance, and it came up after a medical examiner named David Gilliam noticed a large number of suicides, and so he sought out the Maryville Times editor, and they began a program to bring attention to this human crisis, right? This very soulful and human crisis. And this group was engaged in an effort and helped concerned citizens organize a countywide suicide prevention campaign. This report has photographs of people involved in these campaigns. And what's really funny somehow is that you think that by talking about suicide, you can give people the hope and the encouragement that they have to have in their own breasts in order to not think those thoughts, right? To not think those thoughts, to not have the terrific vanity required to kill yourself. I mean, to kill yourself, it takes a mixture of a superior despair where there's no hope, there's no future, there's no resolving the problems, there's no making friends back, gaining lost relationships. And the only thing you can do is in an act of tremendous courage, tremendous hubris, you could say, pride, you could say. You then pull the trigger. Triggers are one of the key mechanisms, by the way, of people killing themselves. In Hamilton County, in 2014, 38 people killed themselves. The record in a 6-year period that's traced out here by the data. The biggest year for mass self-killing, self-executions was 2013 with 53. And in prior years, it was 49. Well, actually, the record was 55 for our county, 55 in 2011. And the year before that was 33. And the year before that, 2009, it was 41 individuals. Suicide is not really a health problem. It's a religion problem. It is a problem as it is a problem of how one accounts for oneself and his purpose. Right. The question of purpose is not simply internal psychological state of being. It is a much larger question that comes upon every individual, one person at a time. And the question is effectively one of religion, one of why I'm here. What is the purpose of my life? Do things have meaning? Or are we we're in a postmodern society? We're in a post-truth society, as some would say who are postmodernists. Are we in a post-meaning society? Are we just supposed to get along and be content, to be happy with the fact that the claim, rather, that, or the seeming fact that there is no meaning and there's no way to make anything cohere. There's no way to understand my problems in the larger context. I simply have these agonies, these pains, and the man who commits suicide, or the teenager who commits suicide, is he can't find his center. Right? There's no center. And I think the reason it's a religious problem is because the antidote to suicide is hope and understanding. I would say hope in God and have an understanding that one has to have a relationship with God, and that people who don't have a relationship with God, who have not ever submitted to Him, every one of them has the only rational response, and that is to kill yourself. It seems to me that if you don't have God, you can work your way to reasonably saying there is simply no reason to continue living. Even though I could borrow from utilitarianism for a few years and enjoy a life of rock and roll, sex, abusing people, and stealing from them, and not getting caught. That's and being high on narcotics. But those things have their costs, and people who are in that realm, whether they're movie stars or poor people who live in trailer parks, they have miserable lives, and I don't think I can escape the gravitational pull of that kind of demise. People who kill themselves are, in fact, extraordinarily proud. They're courageous, and in a way, in their calculations, they're self-sacrificing. I'm going to kill myself to not have to cause any more problems. Right? I can't solve my problems. I can't solve other people's problems. There's no meaning. Things are disconnected, and we have to understand that we live in an age of the institution. We don't live in a personal and private age, which you could find typified perhaps best in life in America, maybe before the war and then after the war in the 1870s and 1880s, before the rise of the progressive state. There were so many opportunities, and the individual really could be made to matter. There was a real free market in America. There were real genuine opportunities. You didn't see police, you didn't see the state, you didn't have mass surveillance, and you didn't have things such as the draft, the income tax, and you had minimal claims of the public school as against the people, and so there were real opportunities. Now, though, opportunities are curtailed, and we have everything claimed by the state, and the state is not about coherence, right? The state is not about coherence. And I would just look back into the way the school systems are run. They don't train young people to be moral. They don't train them to be caring for other people. They don't train individuals to know how to defend their rights, to know how to be entrepreneurs. Those gifts, defending your rights, and then B, being an entrepreneur, require you to think really about the other. And in the area of entrepreneurship, as we heard from the Hinkers, Jennifer Hinker and her husband Paul, their business has always been about the customer. We listen to our customer with extraordinary attention, right? Because the customer is effectively our salvation, and we're going to serve that customer with everything we can, everything we know about the felt business, which of course is wool, a special kind of wool, and we're going to serve that customer. And that's how that family has had already a couple of probably $1 million businesses, and now they're starting another business in the third. It's in the third year. And they're thinking constantly about the customer. That is a kind of other centrism, right? Thinking about the other. That comes from Christianity. Christianity is the only system that creates science that creates a coherent sense of the universe. From it comes the idea of the universe. From modernism and humanism, and now we have postmodernism, you don't have a universe, you have a multiverse, right? There are multiple universes. There is no truth, there is no center. There are simply scattered people with opinions, each holding his own opinion to be superior. And of course, in that world, the postmodern world and the humanistic world, who comes out on top? Well, the people who come out on top with all the money, all the power, all the guns, all the privileges are the strong, right? Those are societies which allow for the pyramidical shape of society to be erected. In our day, that would be the pyramid of national the pyramid of national government and the national debt-based economy. That is the shape of things we have today. About suicide. Suicide is a mental health problem. This is David Tulis and caller. You're live on the air at Nooga Radio. What's on your mind?
Yeah, it's Mike Steele. Don't hang up on me, because David would never say this on the air. But typically someone that speaks when you speak, the listener may say, well, come on, practice what you preach. David Tulis does that, and he's not going to brag that to you, but I've known David for 5 years now. And it's the only person I truly, really ever worked with that really cares about the client. Believe me when I tell you this. Don't hang up on me.
Okay.
That other people that sell radio advertising, which David does, will typically just be concerned about getting you on the air and putting a few ads on and maybe seeing you once a month. David Tulis cares about the people he deals with in his life, not just clients, but everyone. So he practices what he preaches. He doesn't just say, oh, let's put an ad on for you. He wants to make sure that person is successful. And that's everyone David comes in contact with. He does that. So he practices what he preaches. And it's rare in the radio business, and I think, David, it's because you're not from radio. You're from
Mike, listen.
Working in the print media for 25 years. So you're an anomaly in the business, and we are proud that you're wallowing in the mud with our radio people from print. I just wanted to say that, and say that David practices what he preaches.
Well, thanks. That's Mike. Mike giving me a compliment of being I am a talk show host. I'm a journalist. I wear these different hats here at the radio station, and we are of course a radio station, but we're a multimedia platform, and our goal is to always serve our constituents. Those constituents are the listener first. That's you, and then it would be the advertiser. The advertiser is the small business person, just like you, my listener. And our goal is to get you two to connect. You connect with all of our advertisers. And this it's a kind of odd juxtaposition to be mentioning how suicide is merely a health problem like skin cancer or irritable bowel syndrome, and it's not. It's a spiritual question, and I think is we're trying to figure out where Chattanooga can go best, and we're going to talk in a minute with a new city council woman, Demetrus Coonrod, and where does she think the city needs to go? There are a couple of points that I'm going to gently suggest to her. As she talks to you, my listener, about the future of Chattanooga. We don't want to have a short-term, incoherent future. The incoherence is being forced upon us, right? It's being forced upon us by federal budgets, 3% fantasy growth figures, confusion of the language. For example, when we hear Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, this morning talk about 3% growth, well, he's talking about the increase in dollar units by inflation. He's talking about the power of inflation. He's not talking about inherent organic growth in the economy. We've gone past that. We really can't do that anymore, except for you. Okay, you, my listener, you can be part of organic growth in the national economy, in the U.S. economy, and that would be by creating real value for your customers, not borrowing your strength into existence, but growing organically, just like the Hinkers are doing in their business. They haven't borrowed in their business, but they've invested in their own business. And they build slowly, organically from cash flow. That's what they're doing. I think you, my listener, can do the same thing. Let's not think we can borrow our way to prosperity. That is the Keynesian cargo cult theory, as Charles E. Smith calls it, and that is a theory of suicide. We are facing national suicide. Now, the question is, what can we do here? And so I think it's important to consider the alternatives to the standard narrative, and that's what I offer here at Nooga Radio. We offer that to our advertisers, and we offer that to you. And so to prosper you and to prosper our advertisers, we want you two to get together. So you, my listener, need to think about supporting Nooga Radio. Support Nooga Radio. Support David Tulis. I mean, some people think my wife Jeanette thinks I have something of a ministry here. I'm not sure about that. We're here to give everybody who deals with us a gain and an advantage, right? If you advertise with me, you get more business. If you listen to me, you have a better business in ideas, Lord willing, right? I do thank you for giving me just a minute of your time. We have a very interesting woman to talk to next, Demetrus Coonrod. I know you've heard about her, criminal history, criminal background, but I'm confident she has terrific ideas. And this is David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
A Chattanooga man was shot in his home by an as-yet unknown assailant who barged in and demanded money. When the victim refused to hand it over, the gunman then opened fire, hitting the victim once. He's been taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. The gunman's still on the loose. Cleanup efforts continue across North Georgia as volunteer cleanup crews are working to clear trees from people's yards and downed power lines on people's roofs. It's expected to continue for at least a few more days. On July the 1st, you will be able to carry firearms onto Georgia University campuses. However, the campuses say they will not be providing gun storage facilities or signs when a new state law permitting concealed handguns takes effect this summer. The law officially takes effect on July the 1st, just before Independence Day. TN not quite ready yet. TN ready scores will not be available until after report card scores come in. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect some clouds, but a cooler start to your Thursday. A spotty shower or two may pass through, but most of those staying to our north and east. Highs lower 70s. Tonight, clear. Cool again. Lows lower 50s. Friday, a beautiful day. Sunshine, mid-80s, 85 to 87 on Saturday. Chattanooga's best-kept secret is at Boyd Speedway. Come see the Spring National Series race for $4,000 this Friday night. For tickets and more, BoydSpeedway.net or Boyd Speedway on Facebook. And I'm Sports Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio.
The Harrison Brewer Tank Club Open Car Show. Be there Sunday, May the 28th, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Tennessee River Park on Amnicola Highway. Spectator admission is free. Pre-registration's $20. Day of the show, $25. Judging begins at noon. Goodie bags, door prizes. The proceeds benefit your local area.
7 specialty trophies: best paint, best interior, best engine, most unique, best tire and wheel, best club participation, and best of show.
The Harrison Brewer Tank Club Open Car Show, Sunday, May the 28th, 8 a.m. to 3 p.m. Tennessee River Park on Amnicola Highway. Choose Exit Realty Scenic City. Need to sell your house? Want to buy another house? Choose Exit Realty Scenic City. Our goals are simple. If you're selling, we get you the best price possible in the quickest amount of time with the least amount of hassle. Our agents are professional, competent, and courteous. We stay in touch every step of the way. If you're buying, we make sure you get all the information necessary to choose the right house in the right location at the best price. Exit Realty is one of the fastest growing real estate companies in North America. Our agents have extensive training, state-of-the-art technology, and full support that allows us to do the best job possible for you. If you're in the market to buy or sell, call us today, 423-551-EXIT. That's 423-551-3948. If you're an agent or considering a career in real estate, call us today. See what Exit Realty can do for you. No desk fees, residual income, technology to the max, and people first. Call us today, 551-EXIT. That's 551-3948. We're located at 7610 Hamilton Park Drive, just off the Bonnie Oaks exit.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us, Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me, Action Rentals.
Final expenses, funeral costs, cemetery lots, unpaid medical bills, probate cost, debts. Debts are due and payable upon death of debtor. Will these costs produce a burden and hardship on your loved ones? Who will be responsible? How will they handle them? These costs can total many thousands of dollars, only compounded greater with the grief of losing a family member. A safe and secure way to provide for these costs is with an affordable life insurance from Covenant Group Insurance and Financial Services. Covenant Group is a local company with local agents. Covenant Group still makes house calls. Covenant Group only represents A-rated companies. With many options to offer, Covenant Group can accommodate almost any budget. Great discounts for good health and plans available for impaired risk. Call today for a free, no-obligation consultation in the convenience of your home. Call Steve or Jada at 423-855-8484. Call today, 423-855-8484.
I've got a $10 bill for you at the best paint store in Chattanooga. David here. Hi. Big savings right now on paint and stains. Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. More than a paint store. Ring up a can and keep that $10 bill. Save on select paints and stains at Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. More than a paint store. Pittsburgh, Porter, Glidden, Prolux, Olympic, Flood. $10 a can. Savings this week. Jim and his team are here to help and advise. And to help you hold on to your money. 5529 Hickson Pike. Chattanooga Paint and Decorating. ChattanoogaPaint.com.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Tulis.
If you need an attorney, make sure you contact Clay Whitaker at the McCoon Law Firm. Clay is a very, very sharp litigator and will look out for your interests. If you have any kind of legal problem, make sure you contact Clay Whitaker at the McCoon Law Firm. This is David Tulis. I do want to thank you for giving me a couple minutes of your time here this morning at Nooga Radio. We have a lot to get to. And I make special note of the stories in the press this morning here in Chattanooga about the efforts by City Council to connect with Chattanooga through a portal which is called connect.chattanooga.gov/safe/chief. Now notice how that's framed. Every word used by the chief executive of the city, Andy Burke, and his administration. Is about marketing. It's about marketing, about changing politics, and policing is something that is. If we understand policing in the, if we're being gaslighted, we'll understand policing as it's presented here. Okay, do you know what gaslighting is? I hope gaslighting is. It comes from a movie in which I haven't seen it, but in the expression, the gaslighting is when a party raises and lowers the gas lights in a house and then denies that it ever happened. And so the person who's reporting this phenomenon is led to question his or her own sanity, his or her own ability to recall events and to recite what has happened. So when you're gaslighted, you're being told something different from what your eyes are seeing. What your eyes are seeing are true, and what your perception, your senses are seeing is true and suggests the reality that's there. But the gaslighter will assure you that no, you didn't see that. No, that's not what happened. We have gaslighting events would be 9/11, for example, the demolition of World Trade Center 7 collapsing on its own frame would be probably the highest, the most costliest in human life gaslighting operation. One that's certainly costing fewer lives, but all equally innocent, is the operation of the state in locales and in municipal corporations, and that would be through policing. So the questions for the next chief of police are open here on this portal, and among the things you can pick is the most important thing that chiefs should focus on, and then you're supposed to drag and drop the list order in preference below. So property crime reduction, building relationships with neighborhoods. Okay, all important things that the chief should do. Increase training for officers. Okay, that's important too. Reducing violent crimes like assault, shooting, and sexual assault. Well, that's good. Yeah, gotta have that. Reducing domestic violence. Well, if you name Chief A, man A as chief, well, he may do more to reduce domestic violence. That is to say, beatings by the man against the woman in the home, so that the next day at her office, she has a bruise on her eyes, and she has to explain how she slipped in the shower. And her boss and the owner of the company and her and the woman at the next desk there in that insurance office, they know, and they say things like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." They say things like that, and yet they're thinking, "Oh man, he's been after her again," and they can't say anything, right? They can't say anything because it's a private affair, right? It's a private matter. So if you have a man as chief, he'll reduce that somehow by being chief, as opposed to candidate B. And the committee that's been formed by Mayor Burke is supposed to help him make a selection, right? Give him 3 to choose from, and then the city council will make some kind of approval of. I'm not sure if it's pro forma or if it is a genuine veto power by the people, right? The people are represented on the city council by, for example, Chip Henderson, and by New England Council Demetrus Coonrod. She represents the people of the city. In a way, she represents all the people, and also those whom she counts as voters in her district, which is a very long gerrymandered district with no geographic center or cohesion. It's absolutely nonsensically shaped district, a long, ragged thing that runs from the border with Georgia up to about Hickson, looks like. And so the survey asks, what qualities do you think are most important for the new chief to have? And here, okay, honesty. Okay, well, this is all kind of first grade level marketing here. Strongly agree or strongly disagree, right? You can have a neutral opinion on honesty. Well, some people might actually pick neutral on that one. What about determination? Who are we supposed to be? Who does the executive branch in city government think we are? What about determination? Okay, we strongly disagree. Well, I should the chief have determination? I strongly disagree with that. I really think that he should not have determination. He should waffle. He should be indecisive. He should constantly be thinking about the mayor's political interest. And so I'll just say strongly disagree on that one. What about attention to detail? Well, I don't want a chief who micromanages. So we should make sure that he does not have too much attention to detail, because he leaves that to his subordinates. He knows pyramidal structures. He knows bureaucratic relationships. And so he understands the politics of the office. And so attention to detail would be, in his case, a vice. We would not want him to have that. I will strongly disagree with that one. What about resourcefulness? Well, there too, do we strongly agree with that one? Maybe we strongly agree. He should be resourceful. He should know that the best resource for all policing endeavors is Washington, whether it's a CALEA certification upgrade or certification of some other part of his department. We strongly agree with that one. And then the last question is this. Now, again, this is kind of marketing. We're marketing an idea here. It doesn't really matter what the questions are. And the fact that these questions are so throwaway should tell you that the real issues are not in view here. Okay, if you look at this survey, you can be confident that the real issues are not in view. You're going to read this, and in fact, if you vote in it, if you take part in the voting, you will convince yourself to justify your use of your time to read through the survey. You will convince yourself that these, in fact, are essential. That's the whole thing. The whole thing is to get you to participate by your use of your time and your energy and your consideration to thinking that this survey raises the questions that really matter. These are throwaway questions. They could have been written by a second grader, and they are not apropos. In other words, they're not on the point. They're not apropos means in French is concerning with, right? About, right? They're not about anything. They're really just a way of getting you to participate. Then they get your email address and so on. But there is room for comment. Okay, so there in the comment line, maybe you, my listener, should raise the question about reform. Now, the word reform is spelled R-E-F-O-R-M. I make a big deal out of proper spelling, and sometimes I really have to here. We're at 800-8949, 800-8949. We have to make a big deal about spelling because the Americans, especially in the Chattanooga area, misspell there's a two-letter word, and it's so funny. It's got one consonant and one vowel, and we misspell it. We spell it O-N, and I keep saying no. I'm gonna have to mark that. Get out my red pen and mark that one as the editor. Right, that is my my job as the editor, take out that marker, always red, and do the little squiggle line between the little tail mark between the two letters to show inversion of letters. Please correct. The word is no. And I say that because we believe in local economy, the free market. We love our neighbors and we buy local, which means that we have to say yes to all kinds of things that look vague, wispy, and weak. All right, which are local and voluntary, and we have to say no to those things which are powerful and strong and mighty and impressive, like an array of ribbons on the chief's breast there, as he stands at attention before the flag and his troops mounted in a long rows behind him around the side. Dedication to service, strongly agree or strongly disagree. Maybe you're neutral on that one. Maybe you would say that you're neutral. 800-8949, 800-8949, David Tulis. Now, so what are the issues? Is there, as they say, a meta-narrative that underlies the story and is behind it? I'd say that there is, and it touches on things that are you might say old ideas versus new ideas. The old ideas about the chief of police are this: we have the use of force continuum, and that is to say that if your exhortations don't work and your pepper spray doesn't work and your taser doesn't work, well, then you've got your 10 millimeter or your 40 caliber, and that will solve the problem. That will solve the misery of this mentally ill person who's threatening himself with a knife and actually aiming his knife at you. He's aiming his knife at you, and there are 5 of you in your uniforms, and you've all got body armor, and you've all got 45 bullets a person, and this guy has just in fact he lunged at one of us, so we're going to have to take him out. And that is called the use of force continuum. There's the 21-foot rule, which is an effective kill zone around every officer. Every city employee who wears this uniform has around him a kill zone, and officers are trained that way. And the graduating class in Chattanooga graduate with the idea. The mantra of the police academy is do everything you have to arrive safe at home at night. That's the mantra, and so it doesn't matter how violent the situation requires you to be, right? And that you can lawfully exercise. It doesn't really matter how violent you have to be, or how deadly the day's work is. If you come home safely to your family, then you have fulfilled your duty, and you are, in the end, you are untouchable. You are a member of an untouchable class. Police reform that needs to be debated is in this direction, right? It is in this direction where we have a proportional use, right? We have proportionality in dealing with the public, and that we use the 4 elements in reform. Reform is very simple. There are 4 lines of type. 3 of these lines of type that give the summary of this thinking are single words, and one is a hyphenated word. The single words are time, space, and cover, and the hyphenated word with a prefix is de-escalation. De-escalation, or even demilitarization, and that allows people to not end a police encounter with death as a result. And we want to make sure that people are not killed by the peacekeepers. Right? People are peacekeepers. We don't want them to have to go home at the end of the day, hang their webbing on the hook there in the hallway, out of reach of the children. Come to the kitchen table, and the wife says, "Hi, honey, how's your day today?" "Well, it was okay. A bunch of traffic stops. Had to kill somebody. What's for dinner?" We don't want to have that. We want there never to be a report when the officer comes home that he says that he had to kill somebody, and that he's going to go into grief counseling from the department. That we don't want to have that. We want the officer to come home and say, "Well, I helped somebody today, and I saved somebody today, and I didn't have to hurt anybody today. No one tried to hurt me." And even if someone tried to hurt the officer, we want him to be able to tell his wife, "Well, it took us 3 hours to get this man to settle down, but we did it. All 8 of us, all 8 officers came to deal with this man who was out of control, and we clearly didn't want to kill him. We valued that man. We don't know who he was. We don't know who he is. He's in the jail right now, but we really didn't want to kill him, and we made every effort. All 8 of us tying up resources, right? Tying up resources with a man wandering down the street with a knife, threatening himself, threatening other people, and doing a bit of property damage on the way. We ended up finally corralling him. Well, yeah, we got him to throw his knife down. We got him to put his knife down and to let us approach him and take him into custody where he could get some counseling in the jail after intake. That is the story that we want to have told. And the survey, of course, doesn't bring those things up. The survey, again, is marketing things as they are, and all these high characteristics of personality that are in view in the survey simply don't ask the question about the internal review, the internal operations of policing of that department. The marketing is about the public safety that will be enhanced at this point or that point if you have these issues brought to view: property crime reduction, increased training for officers, building relationships in neighborhoods, reducing violent crime. These are all, who could be against those things, right? Those are pointless questions to ask in Connect with Chattanooga. The question is, do we want a candidate for the chief of police who cares about human life? Is human life valuable to him? We know that there are about 1,000 people a year killed across the United States, in the 50 states in this federal union, who lose their lives by police firepower, about 1,000 a year. And there are 58,000 hospitalizations required every year from encounters with police. 58,000 a year by one study. I think it's out of the Pacific Institute. I don't have the printout in front of me. A very large number. And that's because people are beaten, they're tased, they have heart problems, they have broken limbs, they have mental problems caused by abuse. We have all kinds of things that are lawful, right? I'm not talking about the unlawful rapes and killing. I'm talking about things that end up being exonerated by the review panel, right? By internal affairs. Say, well, this man followed policy. You know, he didn't act arbitrarily and capriciously in using his power. These are the kinds of questions that need to come up. And the word is reform, REFORM. How can we have a police chief come to Chattanooga who has not read the Chuck Wexler paper of March 2016? That is, I tell you what, you ask me to send you a copy of that, I will send you either the link or the PDF of it. PDF's about 5 megabytes or so, maybe more weight than you want to have offloaded onto your computer. But it's important reading, and I think the conversation in Chattanooga, especially in the city council where there's veto power, where there is the representative of the people, that the people should say, we want reform, we want there to be a de-escalation. And the use of space, time, and cover is simply this. The officer Stevenson did not have to kill the plumber in East Ridge in August. He didn't have to gun him down at point blank range with his military rifle. The plumber's hands at his side. It was completely uncalled for. And the reason it was uncalled for is because the officer didn't use space, time, and cover to mitigate the threat, to reduce the threat to himself and the threat to the citizen, right? Do we want to have East Ridge city employees and Chattanooga city employees kill people at point blank with a military rifle and be exonerated? Chief Jim Hammond said, well, he followed protocol. It was lawful under the statute. DA Neil Pinkston, well, it was called for. It was allowed. Do we want to have that because it's allowed? The proper term for these types of encounters where blood is spilled is this. They are called statutorily permitted extrajudicial summary executions. And as long as city police have that power in any city, we are going to have blood let in our streets. We're going to add to the death toll every year of Americans killed not by terrorists, not by Muslim fanatics, right? Those people are there. But you, my listener, are 7 or maybe 17 times more likely to be killed by an officer enforcing statute and maintaining his dignity and his protection than you are to be killed by a man with Muhammad as his nickname. All right, you're more likely to be killed by a domestic city employee than by a terrorist with a bomb, a knife, or an AK-47 with full auto capacity and double taped banana clips on his rifle. You're more likely. These are matters of concern. We talk about suicide and the suicide report that shows an increase in the past 2 years in in the number of Tennesseans who kill themselves. There's a slower suicide by policy that we can do something about, right? We can't wish suicide away. We can't necessarily have task forces that prevent suicide. The confidence in God, I think, that comes in living every day. That's what people have to avoid killing themselves, right? It's an internal spiritual problem, and the Holy Spirit, according to basic Christian teaching, breathes upon a people as he breathes upon an individual, to give the individual a sense of his vulnerability before God for sin, and the grace to repent of that sin, and then to have a new life, right? A new life full of optimism, full of caring for others. That's what Christianity does. It definitionally requires its adherents to care about other people first. That's where the marketplace comes from. That's where charity comes from. That's where civilization comes from. And Chattanooga, I think, has many advantages in this direction, many advantages over other cities of similar size, and even advantages over cities that are smaller than us, because we have, over the years, in my living here, suggests God has given grace to the people here, even those who are not Christians, right? There's a grace, there's a kind of generalized grace that comes over time to a group with the salting effect of those who are truly self-denying people who love their neighbors more than themselves, or as themselves, if not more than themselves. This is David Tulis. The chief of police question is very important. We need to have a chief of police in Chattanooga who wants to have reform and who will not let things go as Chief Fletcher did. Chief Fletcher emphasized community policing. That is a palliative. By that, a palliative is what you give a man with a lethal cancer who's in great pain, right? Palliative reduces the pain, but it doesn't solve the cancer and doesn't save the man's life. Community policing is a palliative for a corrosive power that has been exercised at least since the 70s with the rise of SWAT, but really well before that. And we need here in Chattanooga to find a way of reining this power in. Now, Basil Marceau has a legal analysis about that I'll just mention here. I won't tell you how it works, but he has a legal analysis for that. And we've covered it in detail. But rather there be internal reform than external compulsion in that legal reform proposal that he's offering. This is David Tulis, Nooga Radio, brought to you by Nooganomics.com.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
IBuyChattanoogaHouses.com, Chattanooga's premier house buyer. Do you have a house you need to sell fast? We are buying. Call us today. We are local folks. We will buy your house as is, no repairs needed. We will give you a cash offer and close on the day of your choice. Call us right now, 423-834-7321. Need to sell a house fast? We are buying. Are you experiencing one of these situations? Inherited a house you have no need for? Behind on your property taxes? Nightmare tenants making your life miserable? Too many repairs needed and don't have a desire to fix? Behind on payments and facing foreclosure? Recently divorced and need a way out of the house? Never really wanted to be a landlord and just want to cash out? Trying to relocate and need to sell your house? Do you need to sell a house fast? We are buying. No fees, no hassles, no repair costs. Close on the day of your choice. Our process is simple. Call us today. We inspect your property right away. We make you a fair cash offer. We close on the day of your choice. Call us today, 423-834-7321. Visit our website, IBuyChattanoogaHouses.com. Call us today, 423-834-7321. IBuyChattanoogaHouses.com. He stole out so much cash, such a huge amount of cash, that he's become a national star. Rick Davis, you know the story. Cash, 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 and more cash. People can't believe it. They want to see it. And now Rick Davis has a new TV show. National TV, USA and Canada. He's got the gold and silver, diamonds and rings. You get dizzy just thinking about it. Rick's selling. Rick's buying. Cash, 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 and more cash. And now a mountain of cash catching the Hollywood spotlight. You know where it is. Brainerd Road, Rick Davis, Golden Diamonds. Cash, 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 and national TV cash. That's really big. Everyone wants to see it. Money flying out the door. Rick Davis is America's jeweler. It's better than Hollywood. It's right here. Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis, Golden Diamonds, Brainerd Road.
You love me. You really love me.
Are you shovel ready to build a house, but you're not a builder? Are you shovel ready? Michael's Homes is ready to bulldoze its way to a solution for you. You have ideas on what you want in a house, but you're looking for someone to bring your ideas into a plan and turn your plan into a house. Michael's Homes, custom builder. Michael's Homes has lots available and a new subdivision, River Bay Estates, that's Harrison. Maybe River Watch in Saudi Daisy. Choices galore, lots, houses, beautiful homes all over Chattanooga. The Canyons, Hickson, Crystal Brook, Appison. Drive in, take a look, consult with us. We build on your lot or ours. Homes-Chattanooga.com.
Call 423-413-9929.
It is Eric Jones hard into the outside wall, and they are still 3 and 4 wide. It looks like we're racing at Talladega.
Caution flag is out. It looked like Denny Hamlin was trying to get by Ricky Stenhouse. Got into the back of Ricky at the line. Man, that's a close one. Matt Kenseth wins stage 1.
Green checkered flag is out, and Brad Keselowski has won stage 2.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. into the wall. That will bring out the caution. Caution waving once again. And again, it's Dale Earnhardt Jr. involved.
Oh, trouble. Ty Dillon has gotten turned to the inside of the racetrack, and Clint Boyer has just nailed him.
Matt Kenseth falling back, the field storming by. Something wrong. Now we see sparks from Kenseth's Toyota.
Larson chopped him off. Coming off turn number 2. Nose to tail. Now it's Logano to the high side in 3.
Joey Logano, a winner here at the Richmond International Raceway.
Here at Live on Chattanooga's official NASCAR radio station.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM.
The voice of NASCAR. WBLZ HD4 Ottawa, W224AZ Chattanooga, WSDT Saudi Daisy Chattanooga.
CBS News, I'm Frank Sedapani. A NATO summit is about to begin in Brussels. CBS's Terry Schultz is there.
President Trump will see other NATO leaders shortly at the new alliance headquarters, where British Prime Minister Theresa May is expected to press him on leaks about the Manchester bombing allegedly coming from U.S. law enforcement agencies. It's not the kind of unity NATO leaders were hoping to demonstrate as they come together to welcome President Trump with an agreement to boost counterterrorism efforts, including on intelligence sharing. Terry Schultz for CBS News at NATO headquarters.
In Manchester, CBS's Mark Phillips tells us there's significant evidence the suicide bomber was not a lone wolf.
The clues are in the leaked photos of the remnants of the bomb itself. The shredded backpack it was apparently carried in. The metal bolts and screws used for shrapnel. The trigger carried in the bomber's left hand and showing a circuit board. This was the work of a sophisticated bomb maker with skills the suicide bomber is not thought to have had.
Britons paused today for a moment of silence in memory of those who died in Manchester. Queen Elizabeth visited a hospital where wounded survivors are being treated. On the eve of today's special election, a reporter for the Guardian newspaper claimed he was body slammed by Montana congressional candidate Greg Gianforte.
Sick and tired of you guys. The last time
Gianforte's spokesman says reporter Ben Jacobs entered a private office without permission. Guardian reporter Sabrina Siddiqui says that's no excuse.
I don't think that anyone would listen to that audio and say that the reaction and to throw a reporter to the ground is excusable, no matter what events led up to it, especially when it's quite clear he was simply asking a question.
The Montana Republican was charged with misdemeanor assault. There's new information about Russia's suspected effort to influence the 2016 election. CBS's Jim Taylor has that.
According to 3 current and former American officials, senior Russian intelligence and political officials last summer were talking about how to exert influence over Donald Trump through his advisors. New York Times reporting that American spies collected this information at the time, conversations focusing on Paul Manafort, then the Trump campaign chairman, since resigned, and Michael Flynn, the controversial retired general since fired as national security advisor. Jim Taylor, CBS News.
The latest insurance industry report shows that size matters in a traffic accident. Small cars, led by the Hyundai Accent, had the highest death rate, and bigger cars and trucks proved to be safer. Insurance Institute researcher Chuck Farmer says it's very simple.
Physics is there. You can't beat physics. If you hit something bigger than you, you're going to be the one that gets more injured.
The Census Bureau says 10 of the 15 fastest-growing cities in the country are in the South, with 4 of the top 5 in suburbs of Dallas, Houston, and Austin, Texas. In early Wall Street trading, the Dow Industrials are up 62 points. This is CBS News.
The inventor of Texas Superfood, Dennis Black.
Most adults take supplements hoping to improve their health. They don't do anything to prevent illness. That's why I created Texas Superfood. It's pure, natural nutrition. Switch from your chemistry set vitamins to Texas Superfood for 90 days. Get better energy, focus, better sleep, or return it. No questions asked.
Now, when you order 2 bottles of Texas Superfood, get the 3rd bottle free. Call now, 877-55-TEXAS. You can also order online at TexasSuperfood.com.
Do you have acne or even the occasional breakout? With prescription-grade Proactive Plus, your acne can heal and you can prevent future breakouts. Try Proactive Plus 100% risk-free. Plus, get 2 free gifts and free shipping. Take it from me, Proactive really works. Get prescription-grade Proactive Plus, their amazing skin purifying mask, and a second gift of your choice. Totally free and free shipping. You're guaranteed to get clear and stay clear, or you don't pay a penny. Call now, 800-281-8770. 800-281-8770.
Star Wars, the franchise, the phenomenon, and the Hollywood cash cow is marking a milestone, its 40th anniversary.
It is one of the most successful film franchises in history. All you have to do is listen to a few seconds of its famous theme to know it is Star Wars. Initially, though, Hollywood executives were not sure the film would even be a success. Richard Wolosky is a Star Wars expert.
The executives didn't really care about Star Wars. It was this little tiny movie that they just wanted to give a couple of $1 million to.
40 years later, it is estimated that hundreds of millions have seen a Star Wars film. Steve Futterman, CBS News, Hollywood.
If life's a beach, Siesta Beach on Florida's Gulf Coast must be heaven on earth. It's ranked as America's best beach in the annual survey by Florida International University professor Stephen Leatherman. Dr. Beach, as he's known, says the sand is as fine as powdered sugar and soft as a kitten's fur. Frank Sedapani, CBS.
Expect some clouds, but a cooler start to your Thursday. A spotty shower or two may pass through, but most of those staying to our north and east. Highs lower 70s. Tonight, clear, cool again, lows lower 50s. Friday, a beautiful day. Sunshine, mid-80s, 85 to 87 on Saturday. Chattanooga's best kept secret is at Boyd Speedway. Come see the Spring National Series race for $4,000 this Friday night. For tickets and more, BoydSpeedway.net or Boyd Speedway on Facebook. And I'm Sports Team 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Orr.
On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
A Chattanooga man was shot in his home by an as-yet unknown assailant who barged in and demanded money. When the victim refused to hand it over, the gunman then opened fire, hitting the victim once. He's been taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. The gunman's still on the loose. Cleanup efforts continue across North Georgia as volunteer cleanup crews are working to clear trees from people's yards and downed power lines on people's roofs. It's expected to continue for at least a few more days. On July the 1st, you will be able to carry firearms onto Georgia University campuses. However, the campuses say they will not be providing gun storage facilities or signs when a new state law permitting concealed handguns takes effect this summer. The law officially takes effect on July the 1st, just before Independence Day. TN not quite ready yet. TN ready scores will not be available until after report card scores come in. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree. Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio. Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Tulis.
And you, my listener, who do not wear bow ties, you can be the smartest person in your category or in the tieless category by just tuning in for a few minutes here on the David Tulis program at 1240 a.m. and 92.7 FM Nooga Radio. I am the morning host and chief ad salesman. If you want to contact me about getting on my station and my platform as an advertiser, don't hesitate to contact me. You can call me here at the station or reach me through Nooganomics.com, the website for the man who matters. There's not a huge crowd to get into that website, so you won't have any blockages or delays signing in, sending me an email, if you wish, through Nooganomics.com. It's not a very popular website, and that's because I give long and often detailed analyses. Some of them are legal, and some of these reports are, I'd say, remarkable in the press because I think they contain prescience. Prescience is similar to the word pre-science, right? Pre-observation. They give you an observation before you can observe it, right? An observation before an observation is called prescience, seeing things ahead. Now, in the Bible, of course, you have Jeremiah and Ezekiel and Isaiah. They're prophets. Okay, that's a different category of prescience. But Joseph, how is it that Joseph knew that there were going to be 7 years of great prosperity in the grain markets, and then 7 lean years? Well, he was able to interpret a dream from the Pharaoh, and of course, and having interpreted that dream, was made the steward of the country, and the man in charge of Pharaoh's own business interests, and getting Pharaoh to corner the market, if you will, and buying up huge demand for when prices were low. He kept buying and buying and buying in the 7 good years, and to feed the country in the 7 lean years. And Pharaoh, in having that perfect economic forecast, was able in the end to enslave the people to himself. He became not the owner just of the lands, which he held liens upon, and then not just all the cattle, but all the people of that country had become enslaved to their lord and master, the Pharaoh, whom they viewed as a deity, right? They had made the mistake of not knowing, of rejecting or not being given grace to believe in the true God who oversaw the lives of the Israelites, and so they became enslaved man to man. That's what paganism always brings, is enslavement of one to the other. It always brings a vertical society where the powerful, the rich, those with the broadest or longest swords, the biggest pikes, if you will, the longest ammo belts, they are the ones who control the other. And you don't have a voluntary society in that arrangement. You have a compulsory, mandatory, legislative, statutory kind of society. What we have now, even as we here in the midst of it, where we in Chattanooga and Hamilton County are in the midst of that society, that culture, it is worldwide. There is a unanimity of how things work through corporate government, through you could say corporatism or kleptocracies, if you will, in which the nation state has run its course and is now in the denouement phase, which is perhaps a couple of hundred years in length. It's taken, well, I'd say maybe 300 or 400 years for the state to emerge from some of the early clerics in England, and even from some involved in the Counter-Reformation. There was already the rise of the committee that governs all, that represents the will of the people, right? Because Christianity, through the Reformation, democratized the world. It brought this sense of democratic government limited by law, the monarch limited by law. Remember the wicked King Charles, the traitor of his people, the enemy of his people, beheaded by the Lord Protector, Oliver Cromwell. The first time that had ever happened, where the people and the representatives held the king to account and, in fact, beheaded him. Roman Catholic king, ally with France and Scotland to overthrow the English people and their government. He was beheaded. He was found guilty of a capital crime and declared a capital enemy of the people, and his head rolled in the basket. He denying the jurisdiction of the court from the beginning. This is David Tulis, and we are here at AM 1240 and FM 92.7, live on Facebook, live on YouTube, and on your smart device. Just get the TuneIn Radio app; it's free, and make us your number one choice. So if you are beyond the range of our powerful AM and FM signals, there we are. Whether it's Sean Hannity or Colin Cowherd, maybe it's Alex Jones, InfoWars, just having gotten, I read in the past day or so, press credentials to be able to ask its annoying questions about the deep state and what's happening in Washington. We care some what happens in Washington, though I think if I'm going to try to be a positive force for good, right, a positive influence for good in Chattanooga, I really have to talk about local things, because the answers really are local. And I think, we can make fun of Washington, and we should, and probably more with humor than with alarm. I think we should view the good people with amusement rather than with fear and dread, right? We about all the bad things that are going to happen to the country if this bill is passed, right? Or if that bill is passed, this will happen. The internet will be controlled by the NSA. There'll be more drone bombings and things like that. More troops will be sent overseas. We'll have more spying. Bad things will happen if these things are not paid attention to. But guess what? They've already happened. Every single bad thing that conservatives warned, and in fact the conservatives brought about in the 40s and 50s and 60s, but they've all happened, and the conservatives have been just as bad as the liberals. The conservatives have the blind spot of big government and big imperial government. That's what they want, and so they will defend it, whether it be borders or the latest innovation in the 25 millimeter automatic cannon in the Bradley fighting vehicle. They're all for it, right? They're all for it. Nuclear tipped ammunition, you name it. Better tracks, more armor resistance, better recon, drone communications. They're all for it. They're not going to say no to any of it. And yeah, we need to blow them all to hell, right? Let God decide which ones to save. There's a story from NBC telling about the $2 billion math error in the Trump budget. It's a massive budget, of course, and it has supersized projections of a 3% GDP, a gross domestic product, as it used to be called, and so this forecast sees $2 trillion in extra federal revenue growth over the next 10 years, which it then uses to pay for Trump's biggest tax cut in history. So it then uses the very same $2 trillion to balance the budget, the story says. Mike Mulvaney, the budget director, does not deny the math, saying that it was enacted or written out on purpose. I'm aware of the criticisms, he said, and would simply come back and say there's other places where we were probably overly conservative in our accounting. We stand by our numbers. There's an interesting story about flags. Now, flags are part of the problem, if you will, in the country. And I forbear flags. And well, you said, what are flags all about? Well, when you have a flag, you swear allegiance to it, and you say the Pledge of Allegiance. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I know I'm out of step with people. I know at Trail Life USA meetings with my son, I'm completely apart. I can't play games. I really can't hold my hand to my chest and all that, or even mouth the words of the Pledge of Allegiance. And that's because flags are part of a larger nomenclature, if you will, a larger equipage of the modern state. The equipage is the gear, right? The things that belong to the modern state, which is an the modern state is anti-free markets, right? It's anti-free markets, and it's anti-local economy. The modern national economy would suck the life out of every village, every podunk town, every mid-sized town, every river city in the country. Every beautiful city nestled against the hills anywhere across the 50 states has and will find itself the victim of a giant sucking operation. And that is You could call it a strip mining operation, and that is by national economy for the elites. And here, Bernie Sanders said things like this, and he's half right. I mean, he's half right. The free market analysis, the constitutional analysis of our dire situation, is that we are being strip mined by the national economy, and you can see it happening in the buying up of revenue producing assets. Apartment complexes, for example, all around the country are being brought up by hedge funds who borrow their money at very cheap rates. You can't borrow money at rates like they can, and so they the elites, right, the 0.01 or 0.05% of the truly good people, the best people in the country, they are buying up all these assets. And Sanders' analysis is, well, we just need to have another program to give back all the money to indebted college students and whatnot. He has no solutions at all, really. The solution that we have to these problems, which we can't solve by jawboning about them, we really can't solve by constantly watching what's happening in Manchester, England, or in Washington. The answer is local economy and the free market, and that is really kind of a change of perspective that you have to have. And I'm not naturally inclined that way. I'm a cosmopolitan person. Okay, I'm a sort of an international person, though I'm born in Chattanooga, and I spent I got my bachelor's degree at the University of Virginia, a master's degree in English at UT, and have lived most of my adult life in Chattanooga. So I spent 24 years as an editor of the local newspaper. So I'm local in a sense, but I also have this international background. My mother is from Switzerland, and she survives my dad. He was from an even stranger and more remote and more alien place than she. He was from Sudbury, Massachusetts, near Marlborough, which is just east or west of Boston. So there's that international flavor that I have, and traveling and living in other parts of the world. I've had the cosmopolitan problem in my breast, in my heart, and that is not really belonging anywhere. So I have to make an effort to belong here. I have to think about belonging to Chattanooga, and to make myself care first about what happens here. It's an intellectual process. But it's also, in a way, it's a spiritual process. And I think the part of God's grace that helps me the most in that is a spirit of thankfulness. If I'm thankful to God for what he's given me, then I'll be glad to be here. Then I'll say, well, I belong here. I don't belong in a different city. I don't belong in a different economy. I don't belong in a different circumstances. I have to live where I'm put. And I have to be not just struggling with my problems, let's say business problems or personal problems, not just struggling, but I have to be content in them and to be thankful, not just in them, but for them. That's the spirit of gratitude that also that doesn't come naturally to me, but by God's grace, I do have a measure of that and from him, and I can be thankful for all things. Now, flags and uniforms are part of the equipage of the modern state, and just let me give you an idea where these come from. Right, these are the things that are part of Marxist Communist Manifesto and the 10 planks there. But that's old material. Let's not bring that up, though it's very apropos and could be on the point. But the things of the modern state which are ever present are flags are part of it. And I'm trying to get to a story. Let's get the news out here and not have this continuing discussion. Maybe that'd be more interesting to you, my listener, right? But it's 800-8949, 800-8949 if you wanted to give me a call. The story, well, okay, just in a nutshell, right? In one sentence, we'll use some commas. In one sentence, the nomenclature of the state are uniforms and flags, songs, regulations, agencies, schools, militaries, navies, air forces, and central banks. These are all parts of the economy of the modern state, which tries to own the economy. It tries to own the people. The modern state has consumed the people in every country in the West. The state effectively consumes the people, and now it is in the burping phase. The people have been completely absorbed, their lives completely made dependent upon the welfare of the modern state. It's schools, right? They get their ideas from the state. They get their learning from the state. They get their their dietary information from the state. They get their toilet tank size information from the state. The proper wattage in the light bulbs, they get that too. You can't buy 100-watt light bulbs anymore. So we've been made dependent, and we agree to it. We all just keep agreeing with it, and we can't not unagree anymore. We just don't know how to do that. And so flags are part of it. The news is out of Woodstock, Georgia, and we have WRCB TV to thank for this story. It comes out of WXIA television station, and you may have seen this report last night about a community association in the village at Town Lake. And it did something really stupid. Sent something abrupt and offensive by email. Don't use email. I mean, I do say you can contact me by email, but email is a dead form in many ways. The message was you can't fly the Yankee flag, except on certain holidays. There are 20 days in which you can fly the American flag from dawn till dusk, right? And it includes Mother's Day, but excludes Father's Day. That was one of the little irritant points there in the missive. Donna Gorse, for example, said, "Brave men and women fight for that flag, and many of them come home in coffins draped in that flag. My father fought in World War II and was in the Battle of the Bulge and lost many of his friends. They fought for the flag." So you see how people understand things. The flag represents what they fought for, and of course, every dead soldier who's remembered now longingly is said to have died for the flag and for freedom, right? That's the normal narrative. And I just accept that people do that. I'm not going to complain about it or criticize them. I just accept that that's human nature to magnify and ennoble the deaths. Because otherwise, if the man died for federal imperialism, then you're angry, right? No one wants to be angry. So we have to have an alternative explanation. And that is what we have in this story. Richard Tibbetts is quoted, an Army veteran. "I spent 23 years of my life defending this country, and for someone to tell me arbitrarily when I can honor it is unacceptable," he says. It's 800-8949. That's my number, 800-8949. A man named Tom Wilder, according to WRCB TV, Channel 3, said, "I was extremely upset, extremely." And these are the things that are, again, the flag is not necessarily against local economy. It's not necessarily against free market, but the world that the flag represents is, right? And that is the world of imperial reach, imperial even overreach. And overreach is what we have, and that's where we have terrorism comes from blowback. Terrorism comes from the argument about unintended consequences for killing people, hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people in other countries, and somehow thinking, well, those deaths were necessary because we were invading, because we were fighting terrorism. And it's interesting how these arguments used to be made by Democrats, right? Democrats, the party of the South, used to make these arguments. It was one of the few things that the Democrat Party had right as it turned and twisted into its malignant present self. It was against wars and against imperial overreach. But now the Democrats, like the Republicans, are all about that. Here at the end of the empire, they both agree on exceeding courage, right? Exceeding intervention. And we have the Manchester bombings, where we in the UK meddled with Libya. We overturned a dictator, and now that country is festering with training grounds for people who want, for the glory of Allah, and to attain the forms of the virgins, to make war from afar by infiltrating countries that have open borders, going in as they do in Great Britain. And there are thousands of potential suspects, thousands of potential future suspects, and their presence there and their motive there causes what? It causes the need for security, to enhance security. And security is always something the state wants, and states thrive on the need for security. States thrive on war. And if we're going to be free in the future, 100 years from now, if Chattanooga and Hamilton County are going to be freer than we are now, if the quotient of liberty and prosperity is going to be greater 100 years from now, it will be only because, well, it will be not only, I would say, but one reason will be or could be that empire, the United States, has gone away, that it will have collapsed on its own debt. the empire will it will be cannibalizing itself in the next 30 years, as we've mentioned. It will be cannibalizing itself, and the federal government, the whole treasury, will eventually be consumed by old people, and that the old people and the lobby for the old people is our midterm friend, the midterm friend of liberty, and the prospect of reform in the out years is the old old people's lobby. They're going to consume the federal budget, cutting back on the pentagram. But we have Trump to get through for the next 8 years. He is an interventionist, a major interventionist, and we can have all kinds of excitement ahead. This is David Tulis. Love your neighbor and buy local. We're brought to you by Jim McCoon and Clay Whitaker, the attorneys downtown. Clay Whitaker, an extraordinarily sharp barrister. If you have a legal problem, I suggest you contact Clay Whitaker. David Tulis here at Nooga Radio. Give me a call, 800-8949.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
3, 2, 1.
Chattanooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM's news now.
A Chattanooga man was shot in his home by an as-yet unknown assailant who barged in and demanded money. When the victim refused to hand it over, the gunman then opened fire, hitting the victim once. He's been taken to the hospital and is expected to survive. The gunman's still on the loose. Cleanup efforts continue across North Georgia as volunteer cleanup crews are working to clear trees from people's yards and downed power lines on people's roofs. It's expected to continue for at least a few more days. On July the 1st, you will be able to carry firearms onto Georgia University campuses. However, the campuses say they will not be providing gun storage facilities or signs when a new state law permitting concealed handguns takes effect this summer. The law officially takes effect on July the 1st, just before Independence Day. TN not quite ready yet. TN ready scores will not be available until after report card scores come in. Russell Stroud, Nooga Radio News, now.
In-depth traffic, news, and information. Mornings on Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
Expect some clouds, but a cooler start to your Thursday. A spotty shower or two may pass through, but most of those staying to our north and east. Highs lower 70s. Tonight, clear, cool again, lows lower 50s. Friday, a beautiful day. Sunshine, mid-80s, 85 to 87 on Saturday. Chattanooga's best kept secret is at Boyd Speedway. Come see the Spring National Series race for $4,000 this Friday night. For tickets and more, BoydSpeedway.net or Boyd Speedway on Facebook. And I'm Sports 12 Chief Meteorologist Patrick Hoare.
On Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
We have the best steak selection in town. Name of the business is Don's Meat Shop, and I'm Donnie Raines. Just ask for Donnie. I make over 20 different types of sausages. Most of them are great for grilling. We have the best selection, best quality. We have the hard-to-find items. Don's Meat Shop.
Window Depot of Chattanooga. They're locally owned and operated and been around since 2008, installing top quality vinyl replacement windows. You get the best price and service in the area. Top quality double pane, energy efficient windows. They look great and save you money.
Oh, I love to save money.
You'll also save money on your heating and cooling costs. Call 894-0011. 894-0011. Window Depot Chattanooga.com. Window Depot Chattanooga.com. Sales and installation professionals. You'll get a fantastic job while helping to enhance the value, appearance, comfort, and efficiency of your most valuable asset, your home. Other window providers? No way. Window Depot Chattanooga's windows qualify for the TVA rebate. Sliding doors, gutters, soffits, fascia, garage doors, and other home improvements. If you want to save a ton, call 894-0011. Window Depot Chattanooga.com. Window Depot Chattanooga.com. Window Depot of Chattanooga. Sales and installation professionals.
And now to our reporter in the field.
We asked Ray at Ray's Plumbing what's important for homeowners to know.
Some field line systems can cost upwards of $10,000. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road. I would definitely recommend everybody with a septic that is not on county or city sewer to have an inspection done by a qualified professional. It'd be great if nobody did inspections on them for all plumbing companies. That's what we do to make a living. Not to scare anyone, but it should be in the back of your mind. The danger is the field lines failing and costing thousands upon thousands of dollars and tearing your yard up. By preventative maintenance, you're saving yourself a large headache project that may displace yourself and your family. That happens more often than you think. The waste is designed to stay in the tank, and that waste will build up over time. Even with treatment, we have to help that waste break down. Ultimately, preventative maintenance is the key that will keep you from spending $5,000 to $10,000 on replacing your septic system. The bottom line is to save yourself money down the road.
Call Ray at Ray's Plumbing, 421-6341, 421-6341.
Competent, kind, caring, knowledgeable, experienced, great listener, great negotiator, in touch, accessible. If these are the characteristics you want and need in a realtor, you want and need Thomas DeMoss of Keller Williams Realty. Thomas is a very gifted realtor who puts the client's needs first. Whether you're buying or selling a home, Thomas is the realtor of choice. Thomas will help and guide you through each step of this very important process. For many of us, the purchase of a home is one of our largest investments and most important family and financial decision. Let Thomas use his 10 years of experience in the Chattanooga real estate market to give you the advantage you need when buying or selling a home. Buying a house? Thomas can help you navigate the emotional and somewhat anxious process of buying a home. For those of you who want to sell a house, Thomas uses his marketing and negotiating experience to help you sell your home for top dollar. Thomas is a local resident, raising his family here in Hamilton County. He knows the area very well. For many agents, real estate is a job. With Thomas DeMoss, it's a passion and what he loves to do. Call Thomas today for a no-obligation consultation. He makes the process as simple as possible. Call 423-364-0028 and visit his website, northriverpropertygroup.com.
Need a tiller to get things going for the spring? Spiff up your porch, maybe your deck? Come on by and get a pressure washer at Action Rental. Family in town, need some tables and chairs for an event? Come on by and see us, Action Rental. This is Dan at Action Rental on Lee Highway. Come by and see me. Action Rentals.
Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM knows your opinion is important. So call 800-8949. Agree or disagree? Call 423-800-8949. 800-8949. Nooga Radio, AM 1240, 92.7 FM, and 95.3 HD4. News, talk, sports. Nooga Radio. Now, the smartest guy with a bow tie in Chattanooga, Tennessee, David Tulis.
The Connect with Chattanooga survey online questions for the next chief of police don't mention reform. They look at, in a very marketing way, they look at what the police department is supposed to do to reduce crime, right? The survey questions are, what do you value the most in typical form? Property crime reduction. Maybe you value reduced domestic violence, right? The new chief can do that. One chief over the other. One might be better in reducing violent crimes like assaults, shootings, and sexual assault. That might be something that Chief Candidate A can do better than Chief Candidate B. These are, of course, silly questions. They're not determinative of what matters, and they don't describe the issues that matter, that are a subtext, if you will, that's not going to be mentioned except perhaps by you, my listener. If you make note of our argument here at Nooga Radio, the argument for the need for a reform-minded chief of police. That is the headline. And this survey by the city government is distractive. It markets the dull wits. All right, these questions make you think that these are the important questions, and yet they're not. They are irrelevant questions. But the question that matters, the issues that matter, are the sanctity of human life. Do we have say a new chief who believes that there's such a thing as lines in the sand? That's how Officer Stevenson executed a plumber in East Ridge in August. We need to draw a line in the sand. We can't wait around forever. According to a couple lines here from the Chuck Wexler report about reform, he says these expressions are sometimes heard in policing following a controversial officer-involved shooting. And he quotes a story about a San Francisco in 2015 when cops killed Mario Woods, an apparently mentally unstable man armed with a knife. And there's a quote from the California Commission on Peace Officers Standards and Training. And he says, how long were they supposed to walk along the sidewalk with the suspect? At some point, you have to draw a line in the sand. In other words, we've put up long enough with this guy, and we just need to go ahead and kill him. That's effectively what they did. Police training and culture for decades have emphasized that officers need to immediately take control of every situation. never to back up or tactically reposition, and to resolve every matter as quickly as possible. Now, that's the reform-minded chief candidate will say, no, you need to use time as a reform element. Time will allow for the reorientation of policing. And this is David Tulis and Call. You're live on the David Tulis program. What is on your mind?
And that's one of the reasons why all police forces are illegal and unconstitutional. And that's why the founders didn't enact police forces. There were corporations back then. There were corporations before the founders even developed this country. They understood the risks involved in that. There were debates back in England on even developing the corporation. And certainly what happens when you go to a mall and you deal with a mall cop? He's protecting the interests of the mall. That's why we have sheriff's departments. It makes absolutely no sense to vote for the highest law enforcement officer in the county and then have a corporation create its own little army to enforce its statutes. They're illegal. They're unconstitutional. If 99.9% of the people disagree with that, they're all wrong. And I'm glad you're educating the people on this. Because the police departments need to be abolished, and they need to be, if necessary, merged with the sheriff's department. And there's a good reason for that, David. The founders always wanted you and me in control. I can't vote for the chief of police. And I don't like to be represented or represented. So I don't need a mayor bringing in a chief. I can vote out the sheriff. And that's the reason we have a jury, because even if David Tulis is guilty in court, the jury can rule him not guilty, nullifying the law. The jury, the people, you and me, are the ultimate arbitrator. Police departments need to go. They need to be part of the sheriff's department, or this republic is lost. Because let me tell you something. That first court you go to, which is the encounter with the police, is more important than the Supreme Court. And the second court you go to, which is the local judge, is more important than the Supreme Court, because they can take your freedom right then and there.
Well, that's a great point. And Mike, thanks very much for calling. That is my recommendation. There are some legal hurdles to enacting the idea, but sheriffs should control. Sheriff Jim Hammond, he's not the chief, he's Sheriff Jim Hammond, should be the man in charge of the whole county. He should have, if laws are to be enforced, it should be by him. And the sheriff's deputies here in the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department, they should have all the authority now carved out away from them by municipal corporations. And then these corporations have their own police departments that are allowed in the statute. And that there's a legal problem there. And the man who's been highlighting that problem is Basil Marceau. And I mentioned him, and I've written now about five essays about Basil Marceau, taking his legal arguments seriously. And I do take legal arguments seriously. Politics, political promises, political discussion, I can easily ignore that. But when someone's making a legal claim, well, that can be analyzed by reading statute and high court opinion that show how a particular statute or ordinance works out and how it fits into the permission granted by the Constitution to the state. Well, there's good news. I didn't want to forget to mention it to you, and it's this: that Governor Bill Haslam has signed legislation that prevents the use of eminent domain powers to give to the state private property for the use of industrial parks. Now that's a controversy that was sparked by the Kelo decision a decade ago. And I'm reading here from the Standard Banner in Jefferson County. The writer, there's also brought to my attention, by the way, by Humphrey on the Hill. Humphrey on the Hill is an online service by Bill Humphrey, and I think formerly Associated Press, maybe formerly Knoxville Sentinel, a grandee in the world of journalism, who has 8 or 10 emails a day bringing you up to date on politics in Tennessee. So as a man in the news business, I value that. But eminent domain laws have now been amended to take industrial parks out of the statute for public use. Now, public use is the standard for when a piece of property can be subjected to the seizure by the state or a state actor under eminent domain. Eminent domain simply, the idea there is domain, right? There's a domain of a land, if you will, but there's an eminent land, and that land in this theory is the state. And the state has land, and its land can be so great that it washes over your land. Okay, it's an eminent land over your land. It's its claims wash over yours and delete yours, and you have a right to compensation, right? That's under the Fifth Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, and also Tennessee has a Constitution provision that protects private property, and it can't be taken from you except for a public purpose, a public use. So the statute now has been amended to keep industrial parks out of the public use category, and that's in short, that's a benefit to you, the listener, here in the Tennessee Valley, and tuning in today on your TuneIn smart device app at Nooga Radio, and online, of course, at noogaradio.com. In addition, engineering fees, this is good, engineering fees, surveying fees, and even legal fees are awarded to landowners who contest the taking. So if you're involved in a case like this, and there's an industrial park in view, or something that's a quasi-industrial park, and a claim is being made against you to seize your land for this public use, and you fight it, and you win, well, the other side has to pay all these fees. The new law provides for 3 points of protection for landowners, and I'm quoting here Representative Commissioner David Steele, who is a county commissioner in Jefferson County. He said it deletes the industrial park exception for takings under 2917-102, eliminating the provision under which cities and counties can condemn private property for the development of industrial parks under the definition of public use. Okay, going on, it also provides that any property taken must fall under the strict definition. Okay, again, strictly defining the takings under public use as defined in the code. And that part of the code references the Fifth Amendment in the federal Constitution. And then the final point in your favor, again, your favor, my listener, it requires the condemning government body to compensate landowners for engineering fees, appraisal costs, and, as I said, certain legal fees that may be the result of a condemnation action. So if your property is condemned and you find it, and apparently even if you lose, your efforts to defend your property have to be paid for by the state. So in other words, you're not out the loss. You're not out the loss of your resistance. Your resistance has to be paid for either way, whether you win or whether you lose. That's a very good point. And one of the sponsors is Senator Frank Nicely, is a farm senator, and also in the same part of the country, Jefferson County, Andrew Farmer. These are two legislators who have an agrarian perspective, which I would say would be one that you, my listeners, should be happy to adopt. This is David Tulis. It's 800-8949, 800-8949. There's a story about people who are doing it in a crude and vulgar way. It is the seizure of other people's cash, and we have there are people who continually think that if I can just rob somebody of $1,000, force a clerk in a store to empty the cash drawer of my account, well, then I'm coming out ahead. The story mentions a couple of younger people, Peyton Chase Cleveland and a young woman, Bailey Kristen Roddy, 20, of Ringgold. He's from they're from Catoosa County, and they're charged. He's from Athens, and they're charged with robberies at Lee Highway convenience stores. And police said Cleveland pulled a pistol on a clerk at a Sunoco on Lee Highway on Saturday. He'd waited around the store for half an hour. The story in Chattanooga.com says until no one else was around, and then he asked the clerk change for $5. And when the clerk opened the cash drawer, the assailant, said to be Peyton Cleveland, pulled a pistol and got $1,000 from that. Ms. Roddy is alleged to have been the getaway driver. And the next on Sunday, just a day later, according to this report, this same pair struck a Citgo on the highway. And then earlier in the week, there had been a robbery at Citgo on Reeds Bridge Road, Wednesday the 17th, and then a Megastar gas station on Battlefield Parkway, Friday the 19th. So those are two earlier heists. And they made a statement confessing their involvement in the robberies. Now, I wonder, was an attorney present? You should never make statements even if you're guilty, apart from advice and counsel of an attorney. Now, these are very crude and very simple-minded people. If whomever is responsible for these robberies, it is alleged that it's these two, but they are using very old-fashioned methods and very crude methods, I would say. They could learn something from national government. They could learn something from the use of the state to bring about wealth, as being done by the Keynesian elites, the people who think that if we just borrow ourselves silly, we will have prosperity. I think the Trump budget, which counts on 3% growth, is really counting on monetary growth. When these good people talk about growth, what they really are saying that you're not supposed to hear is that we want the number of dollars to increase, right? 3%. And that is, again, borrowing. You're not going to have real growth, organic growth, by borrowing. In fact, borrowing has a lien on the future. It has a lien on all future income streams that your productive asset will create. If you are a student that has gone into debt for taking classes, you have enslaved yourself. It is slavery. It is plainly slavery. I think the university racket is something which is slowly losing credit. It was made obsolete by the PDF, let me suggest. And yet people still haven't got the story that there's YouTube now where you can watch lectures from Stanford and Harvard free online. You can learn anything you want if you have commitment to learn something, and if you can get someone to verify that you've studied these things online, you can get credit. Now the shift is going to be toward the accreditation of the student, and not the fact that he attended a university. That is not going to be required as much in the future, Lord willing. The national economy is soaking everybody, and as I suggest, is a kind of strip mining operation. And Charles C. Smith points out that the expanding of credit, which is where our growth is, right? That's what's being counted on in the Trump budget, has brought us to a brink. Right? Look at the charts at any free market oriented website to show how the balance sheets on central banks have gone up. Here's one graphic I'm showing, holding up here on YouTube, live on Facebook, and it talks about the aggregate balance sheets of large central banks in trillions of dollars, and it's almost vertical. It's a very, very steep rise, starting in 2008. And so the growth in the economy is entirely artificial. It's not real. And I'm proposing that you, my listener, are going to lose half your net worth in the coming meltdown. And if you think that if there's a remote possibility of that happening, then it's incumbent upon you to think in terms of liquidity and in terms of investing in yourself. In other words, divesting nationally and investing locally. And there you'll come, if you have capital to invest locally, then your orientation shifts, and you can start making sense out of my 5 nostrums. There are really just 3 of them, but they are, in a nutshell, that near is better than far, and small is better than big, and simple than complex. And down in the footnotes, where the good people will argue with you in 5-point type, they'll shift the font to Geneva to make it so they can make the letters even smaller, maybe 3-point. They will argue with you there as well, and they'll insist that corporate is better than personal. Of course, you reject that, and they'll insist that abstract is better than physical, and you'll reject that too, because you have a lococentric perspective. Now, I'm the leading Nooga-centrist in Chattanooga. Nooga-centrism is simply the idea that Chattanooga somehow is the center of the world. And these are non-trademarked ideas. You can carry them along with you if you happen to be just passing through on the interstate and you're tuning into your favorite station, which is our station, Nooga Radio, AM 1240, FM 92.7. Non-trademarked, and you can use them yourself. And you will be richer for it if you have the idea of how capital is created. Capital is created by waiting for satisfaction, right? It's waiting for satisfaction, waiting for someone else. It's like, it's like you might say it's like good lovemaking. A good lover is not having sex with his wife and it's all about him. It's really all about her. That is where the ideas of Christendom make for good lovers, right? They make for good investors, and they make for good entrepreneurs. because in each case, the actor, the party being looked at, is thinking about the other, thinking about his customer, thinking about his viewer, right? Thinking, in my case, thinking about his listener and his advertiser. There's a story about TN Ready, and I just couldn't help but laughing this morning about the test scores. It's another bit of bungling by central government in Nashville. And but let me just point out that you don't get these test scores for your child graduating, and too bad his standardized test score is not on his grade report. Well, that is simply, we're all lamenting it, right? It's a bit of bad news, right? Well, not really. And here's why. Standardized tests tell you absolutely nothing about any particular person who's taken it. It is not a predictor of anything at all except for one thing. And that, you're right, it's a predictor of how that person will do on the next standardized test. And that's as far as it goes. It doesn't tell you anything about that person's genius, his drive, his gift, his unique talents, his unique way of thinking about things, all of which are part of human capital, right? They're all part of God's gift to each person. Every person has a soul made by God, and then he has a body, right? Or she has a body. And that soul is unique in history. Every soul is unique. Every person is unique. Every person has gigantic capacities. Even the commonest man, even in a poor neighborhood, the commonest man, the commonest child has an equal internal capacity put there by God in the creative process to be a genius, to be an entrepreneur, to be an inventor, no less than the child of the well-to-do family, where those parents drive around in fine cars, have big investment portfolios, and take holiday in Barcelona. Marketing in this story about the survey is just another bit of marketing about surveillance. And the marketing in surveillance is so effective that we're upset that we don't have these numbers, right? We're upset that the test scores are not available so that we can boast about it to aunt and uncle next time they come in for a visit from Louisville. But really, these scores are meaningless and worthless, and it would be saying well for the dignity of local economy and the free market in Chattanooga if parents in Hamilton County took this news as just a bit of trivia, right? That's all it is. It's not a major story. It's a bit of trivia. Surveillance marketing is so effective that we're angry not to get the data. It just shows how well we've been trained. We are a very compliant people, and there's hope still. Of course, there is great hope. And I would say, in summary of our theory here at Nooga Radio, that is loving your neighbor and buying local. If you do that and take on these whimsical ideas of mine, you might come out ahead. You just might. David Tulis.
The Tennessee Valley's news, talk, and sports leader. Nooga Radio, AM 1240 and 92.7 FM.
When my brother and I opened our first Jets Pizza, we believed if we made the best pizza, customers would find us. So we made fresh dough each day, used fresh toppings, and premium mozzarella cheese. 300-plus stores later, we still do.
Try Jet's famous 8-corner pizza with premium mozzarella cheese and one topping, now just $11.99 for a limited time only. Jet's Pizza, the best pizza in town. 3600 Hickson Pike.
Life is short. Eat better pizza.
Let's get Jets.
He stole out so much cash, such a huge mountain of cash, that he's become a national star. Rick Davis, you know the story. Cash, 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 and more cash. People can't believe it. They want to see it. And now Rick Davis has a new TV show. National TV, USA and Canada. He's got the gold and silver, diamonds and rings. You get dizzy just thinking about it. Rick's selling, Rick's buying. Cash, 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 and more cash. And now a mountain of cash catching the Hollywood spotlight. You know where it is, Brainerd Road. Rick Davis, Golden Diamonds. Cash, 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 and national TV cash. That's really big. Everyone wants to see it. Money flying out the door. Rick Davis is America's jeweler. It's better than Hollywood. It's right here. Cash, 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 and more cash. Rick Davis,